You know your family's toxic when the phrase, "It's just one house," is screamed at you like you're refusing to donate an organ. I had just finished making my final mortgage payment. The house was mine, truly mine. No liens. No cosigners. No guilt. Just quiet, paid in full freedom. That lasted about 3 days. Then came the knock on my door. It was Aunt Trish. Full lipstick, oversized sunglasses, and an attitude that could shatter bulletproof glass. She didn't even say hello. Just stormed in, threw her purse on my table, and said, "We need to talk about David." David is my cousin. Or, as the rest of the family once proudly proclaimed, the face of our legacy. He was the golden boy. Football captain in high school, business major at some overpriced private college, flashy smile, endless charm, and zero impulse control. The moment he turned 25 and inherited Grandpa's early trust fund, he blew it like a teenager with a Vegas credit card. Nightclubs, luxury rentals, Instagram girls with names like Sahara Mist and Lexi with 2 eyes. Within 18 months, he was broke, in debt, and had made local headlines for crashing a rented Lambo while drunk at 4 a.m. And now, according to Aunt Trish, I was the one who had to fix it. "People are talking," she said, adjusting her Chanel knockoff. "Your cousin's behavior reflects on all of us." I blinked. "And what does that have to do with my house?" She huffed, like I was the idiot here. "The family name is tainted. The community thinks we're unstable. If you sold your home, we could pay off his debts and stage a clean comeback. New job. New image. You'd be doing your part." I laughed. Out loud. The kind of laugh that turns bitter halfway through. "I worked 2 jobs for 10 years to buy this house. He snorted his away in under 2. That's not my part. That's his mess." That's when she stood, slammed her palm on my kitchen table, and screamed, "Maybe you want this family to be humiliated. You're going to let a cheat woman destroy our bloodline?" I stared at her. "Aunt Trish," I said slowly, "do you realize how psychotic that sounds?" She stormed out. I thought that was the end of it. It wasn't. Within 24 hours, my phone blew up. My mom, who had been silent for years, 2 uncles, 3 cousins I hadn't seen since 2007, all calling, texting, guilt-tripping. "David just made a mistake. He needs our support, not judgment. You're being selfish over a piece of property. He's family. Family means sacrifice." No one mentioned the fact that I once lent David $1,200 for rent that he used on a yacht party. Or the time he borrowed my car and crashed it during a road trip with 3 girls named Destiny. Or the fact that I was the one who helped pay for Grandma's medical bills while David was busy buying bottle service at rooftop bars. I posted on Facebook, vague but firm. "I will not be selling my house to bail anyone out. Please respect my decision." And that's when the real drama began. One cousin subtweeted me. "Some people forget who helped raise them once they get a few shingles over their head." An uncle posted a family photo captioned, "Shame when one branch starts rotting." Then came the unexpected twist. My younger cousin, Maya, David's half-sister from his dad's second marriage, messaged me. She said, "I'm sorry. I've been quiet because I didn't know what to say. But I found something. You need to see it." She sent me a PDF. It was a legal contract. One I'd never seen before. Signed by Grandpa. Dated 10 years ago. It was a contingency clause added to David's trust fund. If the recipient mismanages the funds through provable misconduct, the family trust has the right to freeze further assets and assign a proxy to manage financial restitution. And guess who Grandpa listed as proxy? Me. I stared at the document in shock. Maya messaged again. He never knew. Aunt Trish found it and buried it after Grandpa died. Now it all made sense. Why they were pushing me to sell the house. Because technically, I held legal authority over what remained of the family's shared trust account, and they were afraid I'd use it to expose David or worse, cut everyone off. I called a lawyer, verified everything. And then I made a move no one expected. I called a family meeting. The living room smelled like resentment and lemon-scented pledge. I had invited them all: Aunt Trish, Uncle Ron, my mom, Cousin Peter, a few others I didn't even like, but made sure Maya was there too. She sat beside me, quiet but steady. She knew what we were about to do. I stood while everyone else took their seats. Before we begin, I said calmly, I want to thank you all for coming. I know some of you came here expecting me to hand over a solution, maybe even a check. Aunt Trish leaned back in her seat with a smirk. It's about time. I ignored her. Turned to Maya. Go ahead. Maya pulled out a folder. One copy of the document for each person. What's this? My mom asked, squinting at the text. It's a clause Grandpa added to David's trust before he passed, I said. A clause Aunt Trish decided to hide. Trish's face blanched instantly. Maya spoke for the first time. It clearly states that if David squandered the money, the trust would be frozen, and a proxy named by Grandpa would manage repayment and accountability. Uncle Ron snapped. That's ancient history. Why dig up the past? Because I'm the proxy, I said. Legally. Grandpa chose me. Not David. Not you. The room went dead silent. Aunt Trish stood up. This is absurd. He was a boy. He didn't know better. And that clause was never meant to be enforced. I locked eyes with her. You mean you never wanted it enforced? Because it ruined the fantasy that David was some golden prodigy instead of an irresponsible man-child. She scoffed. You're just bitter. No, I said, voice steady. I'm free. That's what this house represents. And I won't sell my freedom so your son can avoid facing the consequences of his own actions. Peter chimed in. But we're family. I agree, I said. So let's talk about real family. I was there for Grandma when she got sick. I sent money to help Maya with college apps. I loaned David money that he never paid back. I didn't complain. I didn't demand repayment. But this? Selling my home to clean up his image? That's not family. That's delusion. Trish shouted. We'll challenge this. You're not going to ruin us. Funny, Maya muttered. David already did that. You're just upset someone's holding up a mirror. Trish lunged toward her, but Ron held her back. I turned to the rest of the room. Here's what I'm offering. I'll keep the trust frozen until David agrees to enter financial rehab under legal supervision. No new accounts. No quick fixes. He signs a restitution plan, and we submit everything to the family attorney. If not, he's cut off for good. I'm done playing bank to a clown show. My mom looked like she wanted to speak. But then she sighed and whispered. I told your uncle years ago David needed consequences. He didn't listen. You're right. Uncle Ron stood abruptly. This whole thing's a power play. No, I said. It's a boundary. He stormed out. Trish followed, yelling all the way down the driveway. The others trickled out slowly, faces unreadable, some ashamed, some just confused. Maya hugged me tight before she left. That night, I sat alone in my house. No more knocks. No more calls. Just silence. And peace. Until the next morning. A letter slid under my door. No return address. Just one sheet of paper. Handwritten. You think you've won? You haven't. He'll bounce back. And when he does, don't come crawling to us. I tore it up. A week later, I got a message. Not from Trish. Not from any of the toxic ones. From David. I'm going to sign the plan. I don't care about the trust anymore. But I want to fix things. I messed up. I let them turn me into something I hate. I don't know if you'll believe me, but I'm sorry. I didn't reply. Not right away. But I didn't block him either. Because maybe, just maybe, the point wasn't to destroy anyone. It was to show the next generation Maya, the cousins watching silently from the sidelines, that the cycle could stop. That it was okay to say no. That protecting your peace doesn't make you heartless. It makes you awake. So no, I didn't sell my house. I stood inside it. Lit a candle. Took a breath. And for the first time in years, I felt like I owned more than just walls and a roof. I owned my story. 3 days later, I received an email titled simply, "Financial Accountability Agreement Draft for Review." David had signed it. I didn't believe it at first. I called Maya, thinking maybe it was a bluff, some half-assed performance to buy time. But she'd already heard from him. "He signed it," she confirmed. "All of it. Even the clause about supervised budgeting. I think he might actually be serious this time." That felt like an earthquake in my chest. Not because I trusted him, now far from it, but because for the first time, David wasn't being defended or protected. He was owning it. I met with the family attorney, handed over the agreement, and froze the remaining assets of the trust per Grandpa's original clause. Legally, I now had control over what was left. It wasn't much. David had burned through most of it, but enough to cover his debt with a strict repayment structure. The funny thing is, when the paperwork was finalized, it didn't feel like victory. It felt quiet. Tired. Like mopping the floor after someone else's party. 2 weeks passed. Then something strange happened. I was at the grocery store, picking up oat milk and coffee beans, when I ran into Mrs. Garner, an older neighbor, sweet woman, the kind who always offers you lemon squares you didn't ask for. She leaned in and said, "I just want to say you did the right thing. I heard what your cousin did. And what your aunt tried to pull. My niece went through something similar. But she gave in. Sold her house. She's been couch surfing ever since." I blinked. "How did you hear?" "Oh, honey," she chuckled. "You think this neighborhood doesn't talk?" That's when it hit me. Trish had been so obsessed with reputation, with keeping up appearances, with saving face. But the real damage to the family name? That came from trying to bury the truth, not from facing it. By the end of the month, people weren't whispering about me. They were whispering about her. And David. I got invited to speak at a local financial literacy group. Maya had forwarded them my Reddit post. They didn't know it was me at first, but they connected the dots when I started speaking about toxic generational expectations and the guilt that comes with being the responsible one. I stood in front of a dozen people at a community center that smelled faintly of mildew and old coffee, and I told my story. Not dramatically. Not for pity. Just truth. When I finished, a teenager in the back, maybe 16, 17, raised his hand and asked, "How did you know it was okay to say no?" I paused. Then said, "I didn't. I was terrified. But I realized one day that being loyal to someone who keeps taking from you isn't family. It's self-destruction dressed up as tradition." He nodded slowly. Afterward, he came up to me, introduced himself as Jamie, and said his uncle had just asked him to drop out of school to work for the family business because education was a luxury, not a right. My chest tightened. "Don't do it," I said. "Your dreams are not disrespectful. They're survival." The next day, Maya called me in tears. David apologized. To me. Really apologized. I froze. "What did he say?" She sniffled. "He said he was ashamed. Said he spent his whole life trying to live up to expectations he never agreed to. That he let Mom treat him like a trophy and let everyone else become collateral damage." "That sounds sincere." "It was," she said quietly. "And then he said he never once thanked you for not abandoning him, even when he deserved it." I sat on my porch that night, staring at the stars. The breeze was soft. The street was quiet. For the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel like a villain or a hero. I just felt like myself. Then, the next twist came. The twist I never saw coming. Aunt Trish showed up on my doorstep. She was unrecognizably no makeup, no designer knockoffs. Just a pale face, shaking hands, and the same sunglasses, this time hiding eyes red from crying. She handed me a box. "I found this in your grandfather's basement," she said. "It was addressed to you. I kept it because I didn't think you deserved it." I took the box silently. It was dusty, sealed with tape, and written in Grandpa's sharp handwriting. "For the one who remembers what family really means." Trish stood awkwardly, arms crossed. "I was wrong. About you. About everything." I said nothing. "I won't ask for forgiveness," she added, "but I am asking for mercy." Still, I said nothing. Just opened the door wider, silently inviting her to sit. We talked for 2 hours. Not warmly. Not with hugs. But honestly. She admitted she resented how much Grandpa trusted me. She saw my stability as a threat to the image she tried to build around David. She confessed that her own childhood had been filled with shame, and she didn't know how to break the pattern, so she doubled down on control. I listened. I didn't excuse it, but I listened. When she left, I opened the box. Inside was a journal. Grandpa's journal. Dozens of entries. One stood out. "If Trish builds her world around David, it will crack the moment he stumbles. But if my name builds a life on truth, he'll never fall alone." I cried. Hard. The ugly kind. But not for Trish. Not even for David. For Grandpa. Because even from the grave, he saw this coming. He trusted me to be the one who would draw the line no one else could. I spent the next week reading every page of Grandpa's journal. It was equal parts wisdom and heartbreak. Notes about the family, about his regrets, about the pressure he put on David to be the face, and how he always feared it would crush him. But the most powerful part was a simple entry, dated just 2 months before he died. "I hope he remembers, being strong doesn't mean carrying everyone. It means knowing when to set someone down." That line stayed with me. It echoed in my head the next time I saw David in person. He asked to meet. Not at a restaurant. Not at a bar. But at a local volunteer shelter. When I showed up, he was wearing a second-hand hoodie, unloading canned goods from a van. He looked thinner. Quieter. But real. He saw me and smiled, sheepish. "Hey. Hey. I figured if I'm going to start fixing things," he said, "I should do something useful first. Real useful." We sat on a curb outside while the late afternoon sun dipped behind the trees. He didn't try to justify himself. He didn't beg for approval. He just talked. About how he felt like a puppet his whole life. How every choice he made wasn't his, just a performance for his mom's pride and the family's expectations. He told me about the shame, the spiraling, the nights he looked at his own reflection and saw nothing. And then he looked up at me and said, "You saved me. Not by coddling me. By cutting me off. I hated you for it at first. But now I get it. You gave me the one thing no one else ever gave me." "What's that?" "Consequences." We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just sat. And that was enough. A month later, Maya and I co-hosted a workshop at the community center. Family, boundaries, and the courage to say no. We expected maybe a dozen people. Over 50 showed up. One woman stood up, tears in her eyes, and said, "My brother lost everything to gambling. My mom kept saying, we can't abandon him. But the truth is, he abandoned us a long time ago. I'm tired of being the one who cleans up the blood and calls it love." That's when I realized our story wasn't rare. It was just rarely spoken. People carry shame like a second skin, especially when it's tied to family. They're told, if you don't give them one more chance, you're heartless. If you don't clean up their mess, you're selfish. If you protect yourself, you're betraying the ones who raised you. But the truth is, loyalty without boundaries is abuse in a nicer outfit. That night, Maya and I sat on my porch again. She said, "You know what I hate most? That Grandpa died before seeing this happen." I smiled. He didn't need to. He knew. That's why he chose you and me. She leaned back. I used to think this family was cursed. Maybe it was, I said. Until now. And then the very last twist happened. A knock at my door. It was my mother. I hadn't seen her in person since the day she joined the chorus of voices telling me to sell the house. She looked small. Not physically. Just drained. Her eyes didn't sparkle the way they used to when she talked about her garden or old vinyl records. She held an envelope in her hand. "I've been meaning to say something for a long time," she said softly. "But I didn't know how." I let her in. We sat at the kitchen table. The same table where Trish once slammed her fist and demanded I save the family. My mom pushed the envelope across. "I found this in your baby box. A letter from Grandpa. He wrote one for you. For when you turned 30. I was supposed to give it to you, but I forgot. Or maybe I didn't want to." I opened it. "Happy 30th. I hope by now you've realized your worth isn't tied to what you give others. You don't owe anyone your peace. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep a legacy warm. Build your own. Let it be rooted in truth, even if it grows slowly. If people walk away because you set boundaries, let them. The ones who stay without asking you to shrink, those are your real family. I'm proud of you, Grandpa." I looked up. My mom had tears running silently down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for not protecting you. For letting them twist what love means." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I forgive you. But I'm not going back." "I know," she said. "That's why I'm here. I want to start where we are. Not where we were." And so we did. We planted a tree in the backyard that spring. A symbol. Not of perfect healing, but of starting again. So, am I the asshole for refusing to sell my house to clean up my cousin's mess? No. I'm the one who stopped pretending that silence equals peace. I'm the one who finally said no and meant it. And if that makes me the villain in someone else's story, so be it. Because for once in my life, I'm finally the hero of my own.